Hi, everybody. Today we're talking about how very often the real risk is not just the concussion. So when we talk about concerns over whether it's active NFL players all the way down to a middle school athlete, we think about concussions as being the worst possible thing. And yes, they are, but I have a different point to bring up, which is that cumulative neurological load, which is a mouthful, but it basically means there's more when you're considering brain health than just whether or not you've had a concussion and how many. So for our people that are active or for people in general, remember, like, I'll have patients that walked into a cabinet and got a concussion and they think just treating that concussion is going to fix it. But you want to consider what else could be adding to the neurological load, we call it, in your brain health. So everything from emotional stress and poor sleep, which may or may not be obvious, infections, toxins, inflammation, these things can add up. And so, the person who maybe had a concussion and was fine within a couple hours versus the person who had a concussion and they were out of school for a month or something like that. So we want to control what we can control. If you are an active player of any kind of sport, whether it's from amateur to professional, this is a topic I wanted to bring up because I really want you to consider that there are things you can do today so that if you do have a concussion, the chance of it being as bad of a response goes down. So some of those things, that total stress on your brain can be determined by your mitochondria. I love to talk about them. They are our energy producing part of our cells. They do a lot more than that, but for the need for this video, that's a good enough an explanation, because if you think about it, your brain produces energy and uses the most energy in your entire body just to control the daily things that you do for processing and thinking. And if your mitochondria are not healthy, then your brain's not healthy. So looking at mitochondrial function, we now have we have at least one test to see how your mitochondria are doing. Working on rehabbing them in a lot of different ways can help protect your brain. Looking at infections, looking at small repeated stressors, toxin exposure, like I said, chronic inflammation. These are all scientific facts we know add to the neurological load that the brain is carrying. And one of the strongest ones by far is sleep deprivation. So we hear about this, but when you think about it in relation to the brain, it can make a lot more sense. For example, chronic sleep deprivation in shift workers. So I have a lot of patients that are, whether it's nurses on night shift or people that work in TSA at the airport, they are not, their circadian rhythms off, they're in chronic sleep deprivation. And we think like, oh, if they're getting around, they're doing okay. No, it turns out that's one of the biggest stressors, the biggest thing that adds to a neurological load. And then if they end up getting a concussion, it can be significantly worse. So we want to work on sleep patterning whenever we can. Additionally, mold, viruses, and chemicals, your mitochondria, since they're so important in brain health, that they're important in everything, but really important in the health of your brain, if they are busy and inflamed and in defense mode because you have infections, they are not going to be able to be protective. They're not going to be able to produce the right amount of energy. And so we need to focus on getting that fixed. That also can lead quickly to chronic inflammation, as can many other things like toxins that we're exposed to, that we need to work on getting them out, work on our detox pathways on our gut, things that you don't think of. So like when an athlete comes in here, we're not just thinking of how to protect their brain or how to look at their muscular function and how quick their response time is and all those things, which are super important, especially in elite athletes. But we're looking at what else is happening. So a lot of my college players, if we can work on getting their gut fixed, and many of them have mold exposure, we get that balance, we get the inflammation down. It's way easier for them to improve performance time and to help decrease their neurological load. Then there's also the fact we understand now about emotional trauma. So if you're in a chronic state where you have had, whether it's childhood trauma, bad relationship, bad job, financial stressors, whatever the emotional trauma is, if it is repetitive, even what feels like low grade, we now know it's got similar patterns to actual physical head trauma. We can see these on images. So working on your stress reduction, getting your sleep patterning down, working on clearing out your detox pathways is going to make a huge difference that, again, doesn't always seem like it goes along with the athlete trying to prevent a concussion. So some of the practical tips I love to recommend are work on that nighttime, whatever you can do for your nighttime brain. Like the last thing you want to do is be drinking alcohol right before bed, because we do a lot of cleaning out of our brain with detox pathways during sleep. So you don't want to be throwing alcohol in. I mean, once in a while, very rare while is okay. But if you're drinking every night to relax, like your brain does not have a chance to drain that glymphatic pathway, keep clean, keep things moving. It gets backlogged. You want to work on sleep hygiene, whether it's getting something like the Aura Ring, which I really prefer because you can put it in airplane mode while you sleep, just to collect data to see how am I doing? Am I getting restorative sleep? Getting that knowledge in and then finding pathways and systems and support to get that fixed the best you can. And there are ways to really work on your sleep hygiene. Working on inflammation. Inflammation is a kind of a catch-all phrase, and we know most of us have inflammation. So whether the core cause of the inflammation is coming from toxins or infections or something we don't fully understand yet, you can take action now because there's a lot of foods that are inflammatory. There's a lot of, meds or supplements that people are, some supplements, but really like medications, over-the-counter things, alcohol, foods. If you can clean up the ones that are inflammatory and maybe consider some anti-inflammatory supplementation like turmeric, or there's many, boswellia, there's many anti-inflammatory supplements, omegas, that will help get your brain and acute inflammation more stable by decreasing your neurological load. So cleaning, just something as simple as really cleaning up your diet. I heard the other day a quote, one of the NFL players was saying he eats candy all the time. And it's like, when you're an elite athlete at that level, sure, maybe your body weight can handle it and you're maintaining your muscle mass, and what the doctors are looking at in a typical locker room looks good, but you're increasing your neurological load. So God forbid you have, brain trauma, you're more likely to have an extended issue than if you were eating clean and taking care of yourself. You can also start really thinking about your mitochondria, whether it's sun exposure, really working on movement, getting outside more, like walking, doing some weights, trying to do deep breathing and breathing exercises, light therapy. And there's tons of easy ways. This doesn't have to be expensive or fancy. You can, look up some of these things, look on my page and our mitochondrial support, getting your feet in the earth. A lot of these things are free and accessible. So cleaning up your diet, getting your feet in the earth, those are going to help decrease your neurological load. Plus, you may want to look at your nervous system through things like heart rate variability. And most of us have issues with heart rate variability because we live in a chronic state of stress, whether we know it or don't. We're in survival. And players, like if kids are playing a lot of sports, if there's professional athletes of any sport, they live off of that stress. And although it can serve them on the field or on the rink or on the court, it doesn't help them at the cellular level. So my mission here is to help everybody understand there's other things we can do today to decrease that neurological load. So your brain health is really shaped by daily inputs. It's not something that we just are gifted and we don't get in trouble unless we get trauma. Daily inputs like the ones I've mentioned. So let's control what we can. And if you want more tools on how to decrease your neurological load, please subscribe and we'll share more soon.